All right, Shalom. You reached the He Pray channel. My name is Azim Awath. But first and foremost, I want to say call Halayu, Yahweh, Bahashim, Yahweh Shai, Bahashim, Harakach Kodash. Double honors to the apostles and elders of Had the Rock, where I learned this truth from and who rule well. Salutations to the Bakiyar, the elect, the 144,000. That's 12,000 men from each of the 12 tribes of Israel. 12 tribes of Israel consist of you so-called blacks, Latinos, and indigenous of America. The 144,000 being the governing body within the one-third. The rest of the one-third comprises of elect men, women, and children. Shalom to you Israelites scattered due to the diaspora and also the triangular trade. So our people come looking like different ethnicities, having various complexions. So this is not a black thing. We're not the black Hebrew Israelites. We're just Hebrew Israelites. Shalom to those that died in this truth. It says the dead should be raised up first. Those that will be accompanying Yahweh Shah on his return, including our King, King Mashar, who is King David. And as always, it's an honor and privilege, honor and blessing to continue to do this work. The water Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahweh Shah Ba'ashem Harakach Kodash for answering my prayers, permitting me to do such. Baba Kashal Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahweh Shah Ba'ashem Harakach Kodash allowed us to be an edifying lesson to at least one member of the Bakiyar, the elect. The topic title for this video is Affliction Shall Not Rise a Second Time. Because you got a lot of these so-called white people whose line may go back to Abraham, Isaac, and Esau that are deceived with a fantasy that they're going to put the children of Israel, which is you so-called blacks, Latinos, and indigenous, back into slavery, man. Back into that hardcore slavery and oppression. But that's not according to prophecy. And they're the enemies of the Heavenly Father and His Son. So they don't adhere to biblical prophecy, nor do they believe in the Bible. They'll say that it's lies, it's myths, or it's a fairy tale, which we know that not to be true. We actually believe the Bible, we understand the Bible, we know what the Bible is, and it's a very powerful book. You know, this is the book of Nahum, chapter 1, verse 9. What do you imagine against Yahweh? So this is something that they imagine against the Heavenly Father, to put His children back into subjection, which that's never going to happen again, man. You know, it's never going to happen again. Salakia. It says He will make a utter end. Right, He's going to make an utter end, not only to Esau and his rule, but to the oppression of His people, of His children, starting with the hopeful elect, the elect, in which the whole nation is going to be saved, you know, through the loins of the elect in the kingdom of heaven. It says, affliction shall not rise up the second time. So Affliction is not going to rise up a second time. We're not going back into slavery, as some of you jakes out there are afraid of, and some of you Edomites think that you're going to put us back in.
Strong's H 6869. Tsara. Tsara.
Which is straits, which that defines as difficulty, right? Um, Distress, trouble, right? Strong's definitions. Um, Tightness, i.e., figuratively, trouble. Transitively, a female rival, which that female rival will be, these Edomites. Adversity, affliction, anguish, distress, tribulation, and trouble, right? So the Heavenly Father says it's not going to happen a second time. Going to co-pilot Lashuan Kwadash, La Yakum, Tazarah, Shanya, Pa'am. Affliction shall not rise the second time. Keyword etymology, affliction, Tazarah, distress, oppression, trouble. Rise, Quam, to stand up, reappear, return, right? Second time, Shanath, repetition, recurrence. Breakdown, Nahum prophesies that once the Most High brings judgment and delivers his people, the same oppression cycle will never return. So what these Edomites are thinking is a bunch of pipe dreams, man, because they trust in their sword. But unless they got the Necro sword from the God in Black, King Noel, they ain't gonna be able to wield that sword, like they did in the 16s and through the 1800s. And it's even being seen on the world stage right now that they're not as powerful as they portray. AI layman commentary. This verse is basically saying when the Most High ends the suffering, he ends it for good. No repeat, no reset, no round two. So all you scary niggas that think that you need to walk on eggshells, you know, around these devils thinking that they're going to put us back into slavery, you need to have faith in Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai. Now I'm not saying to be impatient, but to use wisdom and discernment. This is Isaiah chapter 14, verse 3. It says, "And it shall come to pass in that day that Yahweh shall give thee rest from thy sorrow." So we're going to get rest from our sorrow. And just as it says, I believe in Micah 2 and 10, this is not our rest. America is not our rest. Let me make sure I'm quoting it right, because I might not be right. Okay, cool. Real quick, this is Micah chapter 2, verse 10. "Arise ye and depart, for this is not your rest." So America is not our rest. And it doesn't mean get on a Learjet and depart. It means get out of this mind state, get out of this indoctrination, this way of thinking. It says, because it is polluted, it shall destroy you. And how is it going to destroy you? Because it's going to entice you to sin. You know, it says, even with a sore destruction. So even with a sore destruction, you know, and that sore destruction entails those 200 million nuclear warheads and also the fire from the chariots, right? Going back to Isaiah chapter 14, verse 3 says, and it shall come to pass in that day that Yahweh shall give thee rest from thy sorrow and from thy fear and from the hard bondage. Another word for bondage is slavery. Now, these devils always talk about, oh, there's other nations that were enslaved. True, but not in the same fashion, not in the same villainy that you enslaved the children of Israel. It says, wherein thou was made to serve, right? And we were forced into this this servitude due to a perpetual hatred. It says that thou shalt take up this proverb against the king of Babylon. And currently, right now, the king of Babylon that's presented, you know, to the populace is Donald J. Trump, who will be that cruel lord, who will be the the one that's more stout than his fellows, right? It says, and say, how have the oppressors ceased? The golden city ceased, right? And he is the oppressor. He's the one that, you know, is the representative of the Edomites, you know, because they all think the same, man, right? And of course, America is that golden city, that number one superpower that's on its way out. It says, Yahweh have broken the staff of the wicked and the scepter of the rulers. He who smote the people in wrath with the continual stroke, he that ruled the nations in anger is persecuted and none hindereth. Right, because the Most High is going to cause those nuclear missiles to be shot on America. Right, and then those chariots are going to shoot their lasers on America. And no one is going to step in and say, no, don't do it. You know, no one's going to get in the way and say, that's enough. None is going to hinder this destruction that's coming to them. And in result, verse 7, it says the whole earth is at rest, and the whole earth is going to be at rest. And it's quiet because why? There's not going to be any war anymore. There's not going to be mass destruction, you know. It says they break forth into singing. And that's a little bit of what you saw in 9/11 when people around the world were singing at the destruction, at the pain that these so-called white people allegedly suffer, which that was just a hit by the Mossad, man. As now we're coming to find out. Going back to Co-pilot Lashuan Kwadash Hana. So you read right to left. Hana Walk Mayat Tazara. Rest from sorrow. Keyword etymology rest. Na'ak. Um, or it might be Nawak, because it's right here. To settle, to be to be relieved, right? We're awaiting, right? Because it says to wait patiently all throughout the scriptures. We're waiting, we're suffering to be relieved, right? Sorrow, uh, ma, uh, ma kawab, pain, suffering. And I'm not as well learned in the Hebrew, but the reason why I want to start doing it like this, because repetition and and consistency with the repetition will advance my learning, right? For the word fear, pakad, dread, terror. Our people go through dread and terror, man. Every time they leave the house. You know, breakdown. Isaiah shows the transition from bondage to rest, meaning the Most High removes the source of oppression entirely. And who's the source of oppression? You so-called white people, you Edomites. And he says he's going to remove you entirely, right? AI commentary in simple terms. The people finally get a break, not temporary relief, but permanent release. So we're going to get permanent release from you damn devils, man. And then they always say, oh, go back to your own country, go back to Africa. Well, in the scriptures, it says you refuse to let us go, right? So, Salakia, this is, I'm going to go to, okay, I can't do that then. This is Baruch chapter 4, um, verse 25. It says, my children, which that goes into bunyam, which means sons, right? Suffer patiently the wrath that has come upon you from the Most High. And when you go up in the chapter, right, it gives the explanation of why we're going through the things that we're going through. I'll just briefly read it. Verse 6, you were sold to the nations, not for your destruction, but because you moved the Most High to wrath. You were delivered unto the enemies, for ye provoked him that made you by sacrificing unto devils and not to the Most High, right? So following after these false gods. And the number one false god that we follow as a people is so-called Jesus Christ and then Allah. Going back to verse 25, it says, "My children, suffer patiently the wrath that has come upon you from Yahweh. For thy enemy," and a lot of our people don't understand that we have enemies, and we have a primary enemy, our arch nemesis, and Esau, "have persecuted thee." He has persecuted us. "But shortly," and it's real short, "thou shalt see his destruction." We're going to see his destruction, man. "And shall tread upon his neck." We're going to put his translucent ass in slavery, man. Verse 26, "My delicate ones have gone rough ways and were taken away as a flock caught of the enemies." And that's us going into hardcore slavery, man. Right? So going to co-pilot, Lashuan Kwadash, Rataza, Ya Sha'a Ba Tazara. He will save you from trouble. Keyword etymology, deliver, Yasha, rescue, bring into safety, enemy. I believe that's the Ya, Abyabnawa, uh, let me see, because I could read it. I'll read it better with the Paleo, not the Syrian. Um, I think it is. Yeah, I'll just skip that. It says, "One who oppresses or pressures in qua, quataz or quataza, termination, finality." Breakdown, Baruch reassures Israel, or Yasha'Allah, he is Prince of the Power, that the affliction they endured has a set end, and the oppressors will no longer have power over them. AI commentary, this is saying the suffering had a purpose, but it also has an expiration date, right? So them thinking that they're going to put us back into slavery is all pipe dreams. And even in this neighborhood that I'm in right now, I heard someone walking that didn't know I was listening or overheard him while I was in the car saying that they need to put us back into slavery. Deliverance promise, Joel chapter 2, verse 18. "Then will Yahweh be jealous for his land and pity his people. Yeah, Yahweh will answer and say unto his people, Behold, I will send you corn and wine and oil, and ye shall be satisfied therewith. And I will no more make you a reproach or, a shame among the heathen," which is these non-Israelite nations. He's starting to do and perform those words now, but even more so in the kingdom of heaven. But now through the elect or the hopeful elect. Verse 20, it says, "But I will remove far off from you the northern army." And that's what's about to happen. The northern army is dealing with the United States. They're going to be over there fighting in the Levant, in World War III. And I believe they have a draft that they're going to implement later this year, right? It says, and will drive him into a land barren and desolate, that desert, with his face toward the east sea, which is, I believe, the Dead Sea, and his hinder part toward the utmost sea, which is the Mediterranean, and his stink shall come up, and his ill savor shall come up, because he have done great things. And I believe they're going to be using nukes, you know, going back to Joel. Salakia, in the Lashwan Kodash, Wa La Ya, Tan Laka Tazara, Ide. It says, he will no more give you reproach, Ka shame, humiliation, no more La'ad, uh, never again, final cessation, breakdown. Joel shows the Most High removing shame and vulnerability, signaling the end of cycles of national suffering. AI commentary, in plain terms, the Most High is saying, I'm not letting anyone put you through that again. You know, the water Yahweh Shem Shah. You know, new heaven and earth. Revelation chapter 21, verse 1. I saw a new heaven and a new earth, for the first heaven and the first earth were passed away, and there was no more sea. Right, because just as the first earth was transformed into what we see now out of the Pangea, this new earth that is going to erect from this nuclear destruction is going to be made new. And I, John, saw the holy city, New Jerusalem, coming down from the Most High out of heaven, out of the chariots, prepared as a bride adorned for her husband. I heard a great voice out of heaven saying, behold, the tabernacle of Yahweh is with men, and he will dwell with them, and they shall be his people, and Yahweh himself shall be with them and be their power. And Yahweh shall wipe away all tears from their eyes, and there shall be no more death, neither sorrow nor crying, neither shall there be any more pain, for the former things are passed away. Right. So there's going to be a time where there ain't going to be no more suffering. Right. Right. So Lashuan Kodash Wama Kaya Hawa, Yahweh shall wipe away tears. Keyword etymology, wipe away. Maka, erase, remove completely. The Greek prota, former things, previous conditions, old cycles. Breakdown. Revelation describes the final removal of suffering, confirming that the old world of affliction will never return. Right? AI commentary. This verse is saying the Most High isn't just stopping the pain; He's deleting the entire system that caused it, and we're at the end of that system. So, summary: affliction ends permanently. Oppressors lose power. Shame is removed. Rest replaces suffering. The old cycle is erased forever. This is the prophetic meaning behind affliction shall not rise a second time, right? So I want to say the water for bearing with me. Hope at least one brother of the elect was edified. Did this video to the best of my ability. And I'm going to say shalom.